third and final part of the War for Cybertron trilogy, this line being called Kingdom. We all know this is a reference to Beast Wars, so that way they can give us some updated versions of the animalistic characters we all know and love. So today we're going to be taking a trip back to a show that's a year younger than me. God, I'm old. And we're going to have a look at the new Kingdom Leader Class Megatron. Now, I'm not very knowledgeable on Beast Wars. I haven't seen very much of it, but from what I gather, it's a story from the future with descendants of the Autobots and Decepticons, namely being the Maximals and Predacons respectively, fly through a wormhole through time and space and end up in the past on Earth, like long before G1 happened. It's funny, later in the show, I think in probably season 3, they actually go to the Ark and like Megatron tries to kill G1 Optimus. Really crazy story, and honestly, I should sit down and watch it one of these days. Anyway, moving on to the plastic, he is so good. Honestly, there's a saying that's been going around with the figures that we've been getting nowadays. Masterpiece at a retail price. Basically, if you want a good version of the character and you don't feel like paying upwards of $250 plus, here you go. But let's dive a little deeper into this guy. His T-Rex mode for this toy goes slightly more realistic than he does for the Masterpiece toy, but that's okay. And yes, I say more realistic while acknowledging that this dinosaur is purple and green. Fucking Barney the dinosaur looking ass. You may love him, but he does not love you. His mouth can open pretty wide while still looking pretty natural with these pieces on the side. But if you go any further, it breaks the sculpt and now he's just opera singing. He just looks so silly with his mouth all the way open. Speaking of silly, we've got these pieces of plastic here on the sides of the neck that kind of work, but honestly could have used a little bit more or less. I'm not sure which one. There's a lot of plastic for his Dino mode that's actually a really soft plastic that's pliable and malleable and unfortunately bendable very easily. It's not the worst thing, but it's definitely not great. Like down here, you can see that these things don't always want to tag together very well, but again, not the worst thing in the world. Other than that, he can pose really well with a movable head and even a wagging tail with 2 joints. And since his Dino mode feet are his robot mode feet, you still get plenty of forward and backward motion and access to the ankle tilt. That's really cool. Also, these tiny arms are on ball joints, so it's very cute. But yeah, this is definitely one figure that is definitely fit to be leader in both ways. So why don't we head over to the robot mode.
Megatron, terrorize!
Transformation on this guy is very fun, and just like the dinosaur mode, this mode is spectacular. Like I said before, masterpiece at a retail price. That's honestly just the best way to describe what we've been getting these days, and it makes me excited to see what they could possibly do next. I would love to see this kind of engineering happen on some other characters that could use some love. Please, Hasbro? Some Unicron Trilogy love? At least just Demolisher and Wing Saber, maybe? Something? Just more than G1, please. I'm getting sick of it. Anyway, like I said, Robot Mode's extremely good. Looks very close to how we did in the show. Look at that head sculpt there. It's honestly perfect. I don't really think I could say it needs anything else except for maybe some pupils. Honestly, I really wish it had some light piping to see what they could do. Maybe if he had his teeth showing more, that would be really cool, but that's nothing more than a nitpick. One thing I should say about it, though, is when I first got it out of the box, it was split there at the seam and actually came apart, so I needed to re-glue it back together, which it still moves perfectly fine, but it's just something to look out for whenever you get this guy. Hopefully it's just an issue with mine. Kibble on his back isn't exactly one-to-one how he looked in the show, but I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. And it doesn't hinder his articulation at all. This guy can pose so well, you're definitely going to want to get some of the other Kingdom figures. Whether it be a battle shot or a group photo, this guy can definitely hold his own. Now the only ones I really want left are just Tarantulas and or Pterosaur. All in all, I am really happy with how this figure turned out. It just goes to show that this Megatron does not yield. He conquers. Quite honestly, the only thing that can make this thing better is if David K's voice came out of it. But unfortunately, I don't have that kind of connection yet. But his Megatron voice was so incredibly good, it rivals Frank Welker's. There's a reason that they kept him for the Unicron trilogy after Beast Wars, because it's commanding, it's luxurious. It's one of the best Megatron voices. Yes, Corey Burton was also a fantastic voice from animated, but David is something else entirely. It's special, and it's amazing. Anyway, enough gushing about David K. I'm sure he's probably not going to watch this video. But that's been another video for me, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. I've been 01 Transfan, the #1.